Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena Bradshaw, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. Ever find it super difficult to integrate these holistic tools and modalities, and you really just don't know where to start? Well, I got you covered. It's been a long time coming, and it's finally gotten to this place where I can really be wherever and whenever you need me to be. And that's why I created the Holistic Human Performance Virtual Wellness Center. The cool part about this wellness center is you can take me wherever, whenever you need, filled with meditations, nutrition coaching, exercises, workouts, online courses, all of these things you get in this virtual wellness center. Because let's be real, sometimes it's challenging to be able to integrate these tools and know what to do with them. And not only that, if you are a one-on-one coaching client with me, you have automatic access to this entire virtual wellness center so that you have the tools to do it on your own. And guess what? You're getting a 5-day free trial. So you can find that at www.holistichumanperformance.co/academy. Go get your 5-day free trial. Try it out. Let us know what you think. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Bradshaw Vitale, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Megan Edge. She is the creator of the Hearts Journey Healing Hearts Oracle Cards and Guidebook. Yes. And she's going to do a little card pull for us. So I'm really excited about that. She helps counsel people with a focus on empowerment and deep healing of emotional, energetic, and physical trauma. She also founded her shop Beyond the Garden Gate and shares the healing properties of Mother Nature. I'm so excited to have you on and dive deep into this and just talk about all the good things you bring into, like what you bring to the collective. So welcome to the podcast.
Important, and the way that we say our names has a vibration, and so it is important. It is important.
Very, very important. Yes, I totally agree with you. And that's why I always tell people ahead of time. I'm like, I just want to let you know because I know the spelling tricks people.
Well, I had the same experience from when I was a little girl. We first moved to Montreal from Vancouver, and for those of your listeners who may or may not know, Montreal is a very French-speaking city. It's in the province of Quebec. And in French, Megan is apparently pronounced Megan.
Yes.
And I had a teacher say to me, and I'm 7 or 8 years old, I had a teacher tell me that was now how my name was going to be pronounced. I know. And I said to her, but
what?
I'm not French, and my name is Megan. She said, no, it's Megan. She was very insistent. Wow.
Oh, wow.
I know how important the pronunciation is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's really okay. Yes. Names and you're intuitive and, so over time I've learned we as souls, we choose our names as we come into this earth. So it's so important. People, I'll speak with people and same kind of thing, very small, minor details of their name. And they'll be like, oh, one of my friends, her name is Andrea. And I said, okay, well, is it Andrea or is it Andrea? What is the pronunciation here? And she's like, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter. I go, actually, it does really matter. It's your choice too. So what do you like?
That's right. That's right. And it's so interesting, the energy around names. And it's interesting, this is where we're leaping into, because not only is it the pronunciation of the name, it's the vibration of the name. And sometimes what happens is that souls come into this life with the name in mind, but the parents don't pick up on that, or there's cultural protocols that indicate that this child must be named for grandmother so and so or grandpa what's his face. And so they don't get the name. They don't get their soul name when they come in. And these are often the same people who will at some point in their adult life change their name.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Right? And then what's really interesting is to watch the people around them respond to their desire to have their name be something different. There's always pushback
You know,
because,
it's so
yeah,
funny, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
My dad did that.
Oh, yeah.
My dad and his dad, they both changed their name. Like, so they switched it where it was, so he's Tucker Bruce Bradshaw, and he originally was born as Bruce Tucker Bradshaw, and he switched the name because I
Interesting.
guess he didn't like Bruce. So,
Yeah.
like, now that actually makes so much sense. I'm like, oh, okay, like that actually wasn't supposed to be his name.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it can be an explanation for why somebody feels really disconnected from the name that they were given and choose to change it at some point in their life and then have to go through an actual transformation in terms of their relationships with other people because some people will push back. They will say,
Mm.
no, no, I've always known you as Tom. I don't know you as George. I'm just going to call you Tom. I can't do George.
I can't do
Can't do it.
it.
Can't do it.
That's so cool and so interesting that we started off with this. So as I was reading up on you, I want you to break this down because I think this is very important. You're considered a master healer. Can you explain what that is? Because there are so many people out there who do consider themselves master healers, and a lot of people get confused on like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean you're a Reiki healer? Like, so can you just break that down and what that actually means for the listeners?
Absolutely. For the longest time, I referred to myself as a healer. I would say I'm a
Mm,
capital H healer because that's the work that I do. I facilitate other people's healing journey. I help other people's healing. I have all these modalities that I have studied in, that I have mastered. And I had a client say to me after a session years ago now, she said, "You're a master. You're a master at this." I said, "Oh, well, thank you." And I humbly accepted her thing. And then she looked at me, she said, "No, you don't understand what I'm saying. You are a master healer.
mm,
You need to honor that. This needs to be part of how you show up in the world. People need to understand that you have mastered so many different types of healing modalities, and you have a mastery of understanding how the healing journey works for each person that you work with." And I thanked her, and I sat with that for a long time because I was not comfortable taking that on.
yeah.
Feel like that was authentic for me.
Mm,
I wanted to be a little more humble and a little less seen. And then I had another person a few months later, a teacher, say, "So now you are a master healer." I'm like, "Oh, stop. No, I'm not. That's just silly talk." And then a third person within 6 months, another client, said the same thing to me. And she said, "I want to see that after your name." And the same way that you might put PhD after your name, you are a master healer. You need to own it. And so at that point, once things show up 3 times in a row, you've got to start paying attention, I believe. And so I did. And so I stepped into it. And I do it with such honoring of the people who could see what I was capable of and what their experience of me had been. And I took it on because at that point it felt right. It's sort of like the
mm,
analogy I can say is it's like somebody puts a cloak over you. The king or queen is given a cloak that they then wear as a mantle of how they show up in the world. That's what it started to feel like. And so I stepped into it, and that changed many things. It upped the vibration of the work that I did. And I don't introduce myself with it. I don't say
yeah, right.
master healer, and I don't expect anyone to say master Megan ever, but it is it's an indicator of the caliber of work that I now can do in my life, that I've learned. And it's where I'm at, and it's what someone
Mm.
can expect when they come and work with me. is that they're going to receive, if they're willing, that level of service when I work with them.
So, what kind of gifts? Like, I'm so curious because I've spoken about this on another interview. It's like the difference between psychic, mediums, like intuitives. When did you first actually realize that you were gifted in this way, whatever it may be?
I would say around 19.
Mm,
I I I started reading the Seth material. Have you ever read the Seth material by Jane
I
Roberts?
have not.
Robert?
No.
Highly recommend. Highly,
Okay.
highly recommend. Amazing transformational writings. So Seth is a disembodied or an unbodied entity, energy
Mm,
form. That's how he describes himself. And he started channeling through this woman named Jane Roberts. And Jane Roberts,
okay.
at the time, if this is an important piece, she was working on debunking things like intuition, psychic abilities, esoteric. She was a journalist and she was trying to debunk it all.
Oh, wow.
So she was not looking for this to happen. But because of past life connections, which you learn about when you start reading their work, uh, he came to her through what she was doing. She was working with the Ouija board and she was working with a pendulum and she was, the various tools that we use in intuition and psychic work to, again, debunk them. She didn't want to have the experience of it. She wanted to prove that it wasn't real, that it was all in a person's mind. And then Seth starts to speak through her. And he's this incredibly grounded energy, whatever you want to call him. So when you read the work, it's not flowery. He's very blunt. Basically says, "Look, guys, you're not living up to your potential as a species. So let's get you." So when I started reading those books, that's when I connected to, oh, that's what I've been doing all along. Like it gave substance to my experiences. And I was already exploring these experiences. I was exploring dreaming and lucid dreaming, and I was exploring psychic abilities, and I was exploring connecting with other energies. I was doing all of that in my teenage years in a kind of haphazard teenage way.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have a language for it, for my experiences and my thoughts and my ideas about all kinds of things like human evolution and time and all of that. And reading those books helped me develop a language and an understanding of what was actually going on and how much more is going on around us than we are generally aware of. And so through those books and then through my own experiences and other lots of other influences as well, I continued a journey that had started from probably before I was even born, but I did it with intention and
Mm.
awareness.
Intention and awareness, keys right there.
Yeah.
I would definitely say the same where I didn't have verbiage for this. I was always I mean, everyone has, intuition. It's just a matter of what you're meant to do in this lifetime on a soul level. But I didn't have the verbiage for it. It also, when I started to connect the dots with everything, I was like, whoa, I
Mhm.
am not living the way that I need to be living and like in survival mode and just not on my path. And when I started to incorporate, spiritual wellness, spiritual health, learning about all of these things and how it really is connected to science. I mean, there is a science to it.
Mhm.
It changed the game for me. My whole life just like expanded. I felt like a different human being and never looked back since. So I feel you on that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and what you're describing is living the life of an intuitive person. And in my experience of teaching on intuition, which I've done for 30 years now, you cannot connect to the intuition unless you understand that it's an intrinsic part of who you are. We are a psychic species. And when I get pushback on that, my favorite example is, have you ever thought of a longtime friend that you haven't heard of in 20 years, and then the phone rings and it's them? And I would say that that is a universal experience, or you bump into them on the street or somebody starts talking about them. Inevitably, 100% of the time, they go, "Oh, yeah, 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 I've had that happen." Well, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, it was coincidence. Really? Was it coincidence? How many times has that happened to you? Oh, all the time. That's not coincidence, that's synchronicity now. That's validation, that's evidence that we put out a thought and it leaves our energy field, it leaves our mind. It doesn't just stay here. We're porous beings. We're not a closed system. And so that intensity of thought and awareness, once harnessed, once worked on like a muscle, right, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger till you get to the point where I find myself now, which is that I simply live an intuitive life. I don't even question it.
Mm.
I just tap into it all day long. Do I go left or right? Right? Okay, we're going right. And then I avoid the accident that I didn't know was happening. Didn't know, but somehow, right?
But
That's
somehow new.
that's how it works.
What do you think would be the best, I guess, first step for someone who is curious but has like a little bit of fear? Like, what would be their first step into this intuitive living and lifestyle? Like, what do you suggest for people who are just like, okay, what's happening? Things are happening. I feel it, but I have no clue what to do next.
So it's super important to be grounded in this experience. It's super important that your feet are on the ground. And that's where the nature connection comes in with any kind of spiritual quest or intuitive development or any of that. Nature is your best grounding rod, you know. So if you're not sure what's happening and you're just a little bit freaked out by it, go hug a tree. Literally, go hug a tree. That tree is going to calm you right down. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then there are lots of great introductory tools that I love explaining for like teaching people how to work with things like oracle cards or tarot cards, things like pendulum or crystals. These are all tools that help us ground into the experience that we're having. And then it's super important to talk to somebody else about what's going on because otherwise what happens is you can isolate yourself within your experiences and not understand that this is in fact a universal experience that you're having. This is part of the human experience, right? So talk to your friends. And some of them are going to go, whoa, you are just like way out there. But I guarantee most of them will say, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I had that same thing. I had the dream. And then the next day, it happened. I had a deja vu. Um, or I was thinking about a friend and they suddenly showed up, and you can start collecting these experiences. I have what I call the clairs. And most people are familiar with clairvoyant. And basically all that means in French is clear seeing. Right. But we also have clear audient. We have clairsentient. There's a whole bunch of them. I think it's like 13 of the clairs. And I take people through each of these ways in which we can experience the realms beyond our own observation so that we have the words to describe what we're experiencing. And it's really not what's happening to us, it's what we are evolving from within us because it is our birthright to
Mm.
to be able to make wise choices for ourselves from that place of trusting our intuition. So when somebody's afraid, they're not trusting. So before even going into here's how you become an intuitive, let's look at what you're not trusting and why and where is that coming from and how do we heal it? And it's okay to question any of these experiences. I never recommend you just go blindly into, yeah, I don't know, I smelled some perfume and it reminded me of my aunt, and it must be my aunt coming to tell me something really special. No, it could just be that somebody was wearing the same perfume.
Yeah.
That's where we always start. Let's question it first. And once you have removed all other possibilities to explain it, then what you're left with is what would be considered by some the impossible, but really what it is what is happening
Mm.
for you.
Mm. Yeah. It's funny that so my mom, she had I don't know why this is popping up into my head, but I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
So my mom had an experience when she was younger, and it was like the light as a feather. I don't know if you're familiar with this, and like people kind of like levitate, and like it happened, and she got so freaked, and they were kids at the time, so like, not knowing what they're doing and playing around with energies that you have no idea what's happening. So she got totally freaked out, and my mom is very intuitive, but she was always scared of her own intuitive nature and power. And like I would say recently has stepped into it, which is really cool. But
Mhm.
I've also had my own experience as a kid. I've spoken about this on one other episode. I think I was like 8 years old and I was like rattling something and sound like it clears the energy.
Mhm.
And it literally, like, I blocked it out of my memory for so long until I started to tap into like my gifts and this work that I do. It stopped like as if there was an invisible wall and it
Mhm.
wouldn't move. And I was like, I freaked out. I went into complete freeze mode and I mean, I blocked it out of my memory until kind of recently. And I was like, oh man, like maybe that's why I was so scared to tap into it.
Well, that could be the case, and it is often the case that people, when they're younger and they're not fully developed yet, will have these kinds of experiences. It's actually easier for children to have these sorts of experiences. But if they don't have a touchstone, an adult in their life who can
Right.
navigate the experience, then it can feel very freaky and unnerving. And and we don't live in a culture that generally supports these sorts of experiences and conversations. Most people don't have that growing up. I was fortunate that I did. My mom
Mm,
was always very open to talking about all of this sort of thing. But if you don't have that and you don't understand what's happening, it can be very terrifying. And so you won't want to delve back into it. But the beautiful thing about that experience for anyone listening, if you have that, if this is triggering a memory from when you were little where something bizarre happened, like you saw your grandmother and she just passed away, but nobody believed you,
mm.
it that's normal. That's normal. And what that means is that at some point in your adult life, you're going to find yourself in a place where you now have the capacity to open up and to allow these experiences to become a normal part of being you, of being human, as opposed to something freaky and woohoo and stay away from it. Right? It's not like in the movies,
Right.
right?
So you grew up with this. That's very cool.
Hmm. I did. I grew up with a mom who loved dreaming. She had the
Mm.
most amazing, exquisite, detailed, and lucid dreams. And she was so fascinated by what I would be dreaming of as a little kid, as opposed to what she was dreaming of as an adult. And I have very clear memories of being 2, 3, 4 years old and talking to my mom about my dreams. I remember some of my earliest dreams when I could have only been 1 or 2, judging from where we were living and what I remember from that. Those are my earliest memories, are my dreams. And she would sit down with me at the breakfast table and ask me, "What did you dream last night?
That's
Where
so
did you go?
cool.
Where did you go?" And we would talk about our dreams. I know, it's amazing. Very few people have that experience, I have learned since.
Very few. I love that. That is awesome. That is something that I really like want to teach families where it's important to expose the youth to having these conversations. Like they're totally normal. And, kids are very open, they're very intuitive. And they're probably having experiences, but you just don't know about it because they're probably too scared to even talk to you about it. So I think it's really important to have these conversations in that family unit and just it's a safe space and make it more normalized.
And I love that. I love the idea of bringing this back because this is something that Indigenous cultures have done around the world and throughout time because they have an understanding of how important it is what we do when we're sleeping, what is happening for us when we are asleep. And modern neurology looks at what parts of the brain light up when we're asleep. So this is sort of the modern science aspect to this. Put electrodes on the brain, put the person to sleep, and then watch as they're sleeping and they go through the cycles that we now have identified, the REM cycles of sleep, and see which parts of the brain light up differently than what parts of the brain light up during the day.
Hmm.
But what that doesn't do is actually look at the dream itself, the experience of the dream itself. I've done that work. And what I've learned through my studies is that we have different kinds of dreaming. Right? There's the dump dream where you're just dumping. You've had a big day, it's really stressful. There's sort of this chaotic stuff going on in your dreams that don't really make a lot of sense. You're flitting from thing to thing. That's your central nervous system just putting down what you don't need to worry about. People have flying dreams. People have dreams with certain animals in them. People have lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is where you set the intention before you fall asleep that you are going to become cognizant in your dream, and you're going to interact. You're going to be able to interact with the environment and the people and manipulate where you are and what you are experiencing while you are dreaming. And in a lot of indigenous cultures, that's what they do when they are sleeping. They're working, right? They're working things out. They're having meetings with other members of the tribe if there's a conflict, or they're looking at how they can heal people in the tribe, and they're doing that in their dream work. Right? In our culture, most, we have a sleep deprivation epidemic in our culture.
Oh, yeah.
And our solution to that is to give a pharmaceutical, to give a chemical to shut the brain down. But what happens when that occurs is that the body doesn't go through the natural hormonal cycles at nighttime. It gets interrupted by the medication. And so the person actually doesn't dream. And what we know from sleep deprivation torture, which, I mean, it's unfortunate that that is how we know this, but what we know is that a person cannot function and can become incredibly psychotic if they are not able to dream. So when we look at the mental health crisis that we have in North America, and we look at the number of medications that are being given, uppers and downers, so here's help you sleep, here's help to help you get up in the morning, all of those are disrupting our natural hormonal cycles, as is all the light and the EMFs and the computers and all of that, those sort of necessary aspects of our modern world. So the question becomes, what can we do about that? How can we create sleep health for people? And there are practitioners who do that now, who are looking at what can we put in place to make sure that you get the rest that you need, but not only the rest, you get the dreaming that you need. So your idea,
Wow.
bring that into the family unit, that's brilliant. Do it.
Yes, 100%. I'm doing it. Um, so I want to shift gears a little bit. Talk to me about your Oracle deck. Okay, actually, I want you to first, because I always get this question a lot, the difference between tarot and Oracle.
Yes. So tarot has a long tradition going back potentially as far as ancient Egypt,
Mm.
where symbols that are relevant to our human experience were placed on pieces of papyrus or cardstock or whatever it is, and meaning was given to the journey of the human being through their lives, from the fool, who is the youth, the naive, the starting out their journey, and then all the way to the magician at the very end, who is the wise aspect of ourself once we get there. And then along the way, we meet certain people. And so in a tarot deck, you have the master, excuse me.
That's okay.
Okay. You have the master aspects. So those are the persons. Those are like the emperor and the empress and the magician and the fool, and the tower and things like that. And then you have four suits. And those four suits represent the different areas of our human experience. So swords for conflict, cups for abundance, staff for knowledge, and it goes from there, right? And coins for commerce and for economy. And every deck of tarot has to have, or is expected to have, the exact same symbols on each of those cards, right? Because it's a template. Now, they can be anything. There could be all kinds of themes, but that the author puts into the tarot. But if it's a true tarot deck, it follows each card having those specific symbols on it, so that the information is always predictable.
Mm.
And by predictable, I mean the Nine of Cups is always going to have 9 cups, and it's always going to have a few other aspects that are relevant to the Nine of Cups. Okay. So it's structured. Tarot or Oracle, on the other hand, think of the Oracle of Delphi for people who have heard that. So the Oracle was somebody that people would come to with a question. The Oracle would go into an altered state. They would close their eyes and get into meditation, or they breathe in the fumes from the volcano below, which would put them into an altered state. and they would provide guidance on any manner of question. So oracle cards are like a meditation tool. They offer guidance. They don't give you answers, right? I mean, tarot technically shouldn't give you answers either. It's kind of a similar thing. Should
Yeah. I feel like tarot's more like direct.
It's more direct and it's more specific, and it's looking at the human journey from a particular perspective.
Mm.
Oracle cards are much more fluid and organic. They can be anything, any number of cards, any symbols, any messages. It's a much more can be a much more creative process to access your own information. Because anytime you're working with any kind of oracle tool, whether it's a pendulum or the cards or tarot or whatever it is, what you're doing is you're accessing your own knowledge. You're accessing your higher self or your own wisdom or your own experiences that you aren't able in that moment to see because you're caught up in the moment, right? So working with the oracle cards gives you an opportunity to pause out of your regular ordinary life, get focused on a question or a query, and then open yourself to whatever guidance or message shows up for you, and then decide what you want to do with that information. So what I say to people is that oracle cards and tarot cards, they can be used together. They do have a different energy, but at the end of the day, they are pieces of paper that have words and symbols on them. They're not telling you to do anything. They're not solving your problems. You're doing that, right?
Right.
You're doing the magic, but they're a tool to help you move into that slightly altered state where you're focusing on the question and you're opening yourself up to the wisdom that comes.
Mm. Love that. What a great explanation.
Thank you.
That taught me too. That was cool. I like that. I would love to pull a card from your deck.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let
Yes.
me explain, or please could I explain just
Yes.
a bit before we do this to put it into context.
Yeah.
Okay. So the deck is called the Hearts Journey, Healing Hearts Oracle Cards and Guidebook. And I created it. Um, why did I create it? Well, I created it because I had gone on a journey of the heart. I had come to a point in my marriage, my 23-year marriage with two little children, where I recognized that we were growing apart rather than growing together.
Mm.
And we had been for a long time. And I won't get into all the details because everybody's got their story. But the important part is the story. And while I was going through that process, I said to the universe, please show me a sign that when I see it, I will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am following my heart above all other voices. And the universe has a great sense of humor. And the universe, sure, here's some hearts. And so I did. I started seeing hearts. I started seeing them in trees and in the sky and in, rocks on the beach, all over the place. And every time I saw that heart, I reminded myself that I was following my heart and that I was doing my best to be in integrity and do what was best for myself, my children, and everyone involved as I made
Mm.
the decisions to step out of that marriage,
Mm.
everything that that entails, right? Once I did that, and I was already doing my work as a healer, and now my work as a healer had to become my full-time work in order to support my daughters and myself. And somebody said to me, "You've got these hearts on your phone camera. You need to share these. You need to put them out into the world. People need to see them. And you need to share the story of each of these hearts." So I begrudgingly got on Facebook. I hadn't had an account yet. Begrudgingly got on Facebook and I started sharing these hearts. And the response was overwhelming. It was amazing how many people could identify with that image, started finding hearts themselves. It went from there. And so at a certain point, I don't know if I said it, if I received the information or somebody said, "Hey, you love oracle cards, you work with them all the time with your clients and tarot. You need to make a deck of oracle cards with these heart pictures."
Love that.
Yeah. And then because I love a good toolkit, I wanted it to be more than merely a box of cards. I wanted it to be something that people could work with. So in the box set, you get the Heart's Journey, which is the guidebook. And I share my story because I think it's really important that when you're working with an oracle tool, that you have a connection to it and you understand where it came from. Most decks of oracle cards and tarot cards, the author doesn't share their motivation for creating it in the first place. I want to know. I want to know who that person is. I want to know why the cat was so important to them or whatever it is that is the theme for their deck of oracle cards. So I share my story. That was terrifying, by the way. And then I also, in the book, I teach people how to work with oracle cards, different ways that you can do a 1 card pull, 3 card pull, 12-month spread, these sorts of things. And then each card has its own page where we go into it a little bit deeper, right? Deeper meaning than what's on the back of the card, the message that's on the back of the card. And then because when you're on a healing journey, it's important to recognize and acknowledge that journey. There's a journal.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And so people can keep track of their thoughts, their ideas, their laundry lists. I mean, it doesn't matter what they put in there. It's theirs. It's their personal space where they can keep track of what's happening for them. And then they get the deck of oracle cards. So there's 42 full color cards in the deck. It has its own little box. They get a bookmark. And just so they don't have to go anywhere else when the mood strikes them to do their work, they get a pen.
Beautiful. All in one. I love it.
All in one. All in one. Yeah. It's one of the reasons actually that I became a healer. I became the kind of healer that I am. Let me put it that way. Not only am I a Gemini, so I'm a busy mind in many places.
Okay.
Excuse me. I also want one-stop healing. And I don't mean to say that that means I can heal everybody in every way.
Right.
Right. But what it means is that I have enough experiences in my toolkit, my healer's toolkit, that a person doesn't have to go somewhere else for their energy healing or for their nutritional healing or for their essential oils. I do all of that. And that way they can really focus in on their healing
Yeah,
without
instead of being like scattered. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they don't have to go from specialist to specialist to specialist. They can work with me and I have all of it here. And if I'm not a fit for them, that's totally cool. They will find
Right.
somebody else who is. But if we are a fit, they don't have to make another appointment to go see a counselor because I do intuitive counseling, right? They don't have to go somewhere else to get Reiki because I do intuitive energy massage. Like so that's the same thing with this box set. It's all here for you to work with.
Love
So
that.
let's pull a card.
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
So what, let's create an intention as we pull.
Yes.
Do we have, is it a general guidance for people? Is it something specific to, for you? Is it, what do you,
General guidance for people.
okay.
That's what's coming through.
Yep, let's do that. Okay. So when I work with the cards, what I'm doing, you can't see it. I'm just pushing them through my hands and something's going to jump out at me. And that's the card I'm going to pick. There's lots of different ways you can pick your oracle cards, but that's the way that I do it. I don't look at the deck. I look at the person that I'm working with and we just chat and then the card pops out. And so this card, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's called Connected Heart. And it's kind of, it's a
Beautiful.
bit of a darker card, but what it is there's this little heart on the beach, little heart rock, and there's all of this stuff around it. It's part of a collective. It's part of a community. Right? And it has meaning. It's a, little snails are living on it. It's in the bee. It's part of the matrix. So it's the connected heart. And the message from the connected heart says, you are never alone. In every moment of each day, you are never alone. At times, your circumstances and experiences may leave you feeling isolated and unseen. Step back, see the bigger heart picture, and find the threads that keep you connected.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because how many people are feeling alone? Especially this time is
So many.
it's yeah. So the number on the card is 27. Oh, I'm getting covered in goosebumps. I don't know if you can see.
27? That's my number.
Oh my God.
My birthday is June 27th.
Mine's May 27th.
What?
And this number, I see this number now all the time. So in numerology, we break it down, right? When we get a double digit. So 2 + 7 is 9. We're heading into a 9 year, 2020 year. And 9 is about completions. It's about finishing things off. It's about getting ready to step into a 10, which is the 1, which is new beginnings. I'm seeing this in my readings with people. I'm seeing it in my conversations with people. It's just phenomenal. Wow. Okay. So let's
That's
go
amazing.
deeper into it. Let's see what else we get to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might be a better picture for people to see it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's beautiful.
Okay, so when I found this little heart rock tucked among the seaweed and snails, it seemed forlorn. But then I looked at it again and I saw the vitality that thrived all around it. We can be very good at creating our own isolation. This is really important, right? Because isolation is an illusion. And the only person who can change it is you by reaching out, by connecting. We do it to protect our fragile hearts from judgment by others and disappointment in their reactions to ourselves. Have you ever had the experience of being in a crowded place and feeling utterly alone? As though there isn't a single other person on the planet who knows what you are feeling and who you are. It's no one else's job to know who you are. It's your job to let them know. Look around you. There are billions of souls on this planet, and some of them are waiting to connect with you. Feel into the vitality of the world around you and invite other souls to connect with you. Some of these connections will be fleeting, while some will last, just as it should be.
Beautiful. That is so key. Like, so many people are living in isolation and it's not good for our brains. It's an illusion, like you said. And that is such a perfect way to sum it all up. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. That's awesome. What a great way to like sum it all up, end it there. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. And for the Oracle card pull, that's great.
You're so welcome. So what I'm going to do is I'll take a photograph of the card, front and back, and the book, the description in the book, and I'll send it to you so you can
Perfect.
see it again. But I also have a gift for your audience.
Oh, what?
I have an evergreen coupon for 15% off the purchase of the Heart's Journey if somebody wants it for themselves.
Thank you so much. I will absolutely add that in the show notes so you guys can check it out there.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
I have a gift for you.
Oh, for me?
Yes, I want to thank you for the work that you do and the space that you hold for people. So I would
Thank
love to
you.
send you your own copy of the Heart's Journey box set.
Oh man. I'm like all in. Yes, please and thank you. I received that.
Awesome.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Beautiful. So, okay. Are there any words of wisdom? I know we just pulled, but are there any words of wisdom that you would like to leave the listeners before we wrap it up?
Yes, two things pop into my mind. First of all, you've got this. You've got this. This whole life, this whole being human, whatever it is you're going through right now, whatever's showing up for you, whatever your challenges are, or your wonderful things that are coming to you, you've got this. You can do it. And you can do it because you are so brilliant. You are so wise. You know yourself better than anyone else knows you. And you've got access. You have access to the solutions to anything and everything that shows up in your life. It already exists within you. So you need to know that. You need to feel into that brilliance because it's who you are. It's your birthright.
It is your birthright. Yes. Thank you so much. It was so nice chatting with you. Megan, where can people find you?
So I'm in all the usual social media places. They can find me on Instagram under Megan Edge Healing. They can also find me under Beyond the Garden Gate Botanicals. I have two websites, Megan Edge Healing at meganedge.ca and then beyondthegardengate.ca. All of that, I guess, will be in the show notes.
Yep.
You can also connect with me on Facebook, on Megan Edge Healing and Beyond the Garden Gate Botanicals, and LinkedIn and YouTube. So YouTube, I have a whole YouTube channel with just so many resources, podcasts that I've done, workshops that I've offered, bits and pieces from live classes that I've done. There's a ton of resources for people if they want to dive into my world and get a sense of who I am and how I do my work. And then they can reach out to me through any of those channels.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're
Guys,
welcome.
if you like this episode, like, share, subscribe. Please leave a review. It really helps the podcast and help other people who need this information find it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.